Sure. So anytime you are talking with another human, it's always good to kind of have like a goal in mind about like how you could serve them, like how can you add value to them. And I do care about messaging. That just helps with me because sometimes, my words can get jumbled up. So there's this book, it might be a bit too much for I can't go into it too long because it's an entire framework.
Okay.
It's called Building a Story Brand. That's really helpful with messaging. If you care about professional branding or personal branding, or if you care about how you're communicating your message and what you do and how you help to another human, that is a book can be helpful in kind of figuring out how to do it. So definitely recommend, consider, your message, consider how you can add value, and, just also consider your professional and, personal or business goals, and, how this person, might be able to be a champion or ally or partner in getting there. But again, what can you also add to that relationship as well? Because, we all know when it comes to relationships are completely one-sided. We never keep those up. So those would be my suggestions.
True. And I would like to add to that. Part of sometimes also my hesitation and connection is like, I feel my personality, I want to make true connections. I don't like the, very casual, oh, how are you? Oh, fine. Like, to me, I know it seems silly, but I want to have let's have a deep, meaningful conversation. Mm-hmm. And sometimes I feel like when I have those type of connections is when I want to invest in it. That's when I want to pursue this relationship. And so, I'm still dealing with that. Okay, I'll go on to our next question. You also mentioned when it comes to building collaborations, that there's a book, The Dream 100.
Yes.
What is that?
Yes. So, and I'm sorry, I'm just moved this.
It's okay.
The sun. The sun is so crazy, and now we're near the open door. But so the dream. So it's from a book called The Ultimate Sales Machine. By Chet Holmes, and he talks about a concept called the Dream 100, and it's the idea that if you if you're listening and you're like, I don't want to start my business, why she keeps talking about business stuff, if you consider yourself to be somebody who is leading sales and marketing decisions of your career, this could matter. If you are charged with selling your brain power and skills as a professional, this concept can work for you. So it's the idea that you don't need to hear yes from 100 different companies if you're looking for a new position. It really is that one company or that one introduction to a role at a company that can really make all the difference. And again, all opportunities are connected to humans. So who are like the 100 humans that you might need to connect with or make a relationship with, and who might be able to pass an opportunity along from their network right to you directly, and you almost can bypass the entire application process. That actually does happen in real life. So this is also a method that people have applied who are still in school. There's this gentleman, Dana Derricks, he didn't even know he was using the Dream 100 method, but when he was looking for colleges, wanted to get a scholarship, he sent out packages to the recruiters at these schools. He would send them tapes of him performing. He'd send out thinking of you cards. In any case, he was developing relationships with these, and he's at this small town, I don't want to misquote the story, but 1,000 people lived in this town, and he may have been the first person to go away to college, but long story short, he started having all these recruiters come to his high school. He was, they were in the big town, and he was famous because he just made the choice to follow a Dream 100 strategy by developing relationships with recruiters at, these colleges. And his one regret with implementing it was he wished that he shot for higher tier level schools. He kind of shot to the lower level schools because I guess he wasn't dreaming big enough at that point. But now, being that he knows what he knows, he's like, man, I should have shot for the stars. And but long story short, so the Dream 100 method really is about a method of connecting with people, in a way, an opportunity getting system in a way of connecting with people who might be able to support you in some way. And of course, you're able to, of course, add value to them and whatnot. But I hope that was an okay explanation.
Yeah, I totally get it. Now, maybe because one of the things when people are, going into their UX career, that's one of the advice that they're given. Apply to 100, and so I feel like you have to be a little bit more intentional, meaning look for those companies that, either you like them because of what they're producing, or maybe their vision matches yours, and so I feel like you have to be a little bit more intentional, just to shoot 100 everywhere, right? But maybe focus on the ones that align, with your way of thinking.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
I was just gonna say, absolutely. The Dream 100, it's not like pull up. It's not like, just Google a thing and then pick the first 100 that comes up in Google. No, that's not that. But yeah.
Be intentional. Okay.
Yes.
Yes. Okay, awesome. Now, you did mention that you have had some experience being involved with UX projects. So I wanted to see if you could share about your experience with this.
Yes, it's not extensive, and this will be
okay.
Very brief,
No.
But so user experience is something I care deeply about because in my healthcare professional role, we have had lots of not so great user experiences with various types of things, from software to devices to things that just did not have the end user in mind at all. We would make workarounds, we'd break stuff, and long story short, I've always sort of wondered, why aren't end users brought in sooner? And I felt this strongly for my entire, ever since I started, ever since I entered the professional world, and that has been a while. I mean, I'm closer to 40 than I am 20. So for a long time, I felt this way. And so my eyes were open to take part in user research projects in any way. And I started, working with, so in any case, it was an opportunity to give feedback on an EMR, an electronic medical record.
Wow.
So that was my experience. Mm-hmm. And also with a go live and implementation. It's a little after the fact, but how they set up our workflows, I was able to be in a situation where I can contribute towards how the workflow should be built and designed before it was implemented to where we were in the ambulatory care setting. And there's probably been a few other examples or projects that I can't quite remember because I sort of have a little bit of, I don't want to say short attention span, but I enjoy, being involved with lots of different things. But long story short, those are just the things that come off the top of my head. I do have one specific example. I have somebody who was building up her professional, her body of work professionally in the UX field. And long story short, she was wanting more people to know about her expertise. And I enjoy finding opportunities for other folks. So I told her about the UX DC conference, that it would make sense for her to pitch herself there because I don't think they had a lot of healthcare folks there. And that was her background. And long story short, she secured that. So she flew out to the Washington, D.C. area and presented, and it worked, and it worked fabulously for her and for the folks that were able to listen to her perspective. But yeah, that's my limited experience with that industry. And I have such a huge appreciation for people who are really trying to care to make the products and services and software solutions something that will actually change lives and make a positive impact to the healthcare industry and other industries and other people. I just really am a fan of the profession.
That is so cool. And I was just going to add that I know, some of the people that are pivoting into UX design, when they reach out to me and, they want me to view their portfolio and give them advice, one of the advice that I do give them is to work on their story. How was it that they, in their last profession, look at all those touch points that they had, with the customer, and how was it that they were able to make the experience better for the customer. So I go, so think on those points, and how did you make the connection that this is part of the user experience? And so try to tie in those ends with what you were doing before to what you are doing now, and how you make those connections. I go, because that's very powerful when you're telling your story of why you came into UX design.
Absolutely.
Wow, so many great tips and advice that Amelia has just shared with us. We'll take a break now, and we'll pick up the conversation after our break. Amelia will give us some advice on how to combat imposter syndrome, and we'll discuss why representation is so important. Now, a word from our sponsor. Hola, hello UX friends. If you haven't heard about Anchor, it's the easiest way to make a podcast. Let me explain. It's free, gratis.
Also, they have user-friendly creation tools that allow you to record and edit your podcasts right from your phone or computer.
And Anchor will distribute your podcast for you, so it can be heard on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and many more.
Plus, you can make money from your podcast with no minimum listenership. Make it rain, baby!
Cha-ching, bling, bling!
Dollar signs.
It's everything you need to make a podcast in one place.
Download the free Anchor app or go to anchor.fm to get started.
Welcome back. We'll now continue our conversation with Amelia Roberts. Like I mentioned, a lot of our audience, if they're going to college, and others are creating, from a different professional field into UX design. And so there is something that if they're coming from a non-tech background and now they're coming into the tech field, they might feel, start having feelings of imposter syndrome. And I feel like sometimes, this is real. And I feel that this could also be a block into trying to make those connections that they want to connect, because they feel like they're not adequate yet. So what would you recommend to this type of person if they're experiencing this type of mentality?
So I have actually have a YouTube video, and it is geared towards those in the healthcare profession, but I feel like our audience is savvy enough to be able to extrapolate some of those principles to their role and or their circumstance. The video is called "Do I Know Enough to Get Started?" And it is for people who are thinking, you know what, I have this expertise in this area, and I want to, maybe do consulting or want to branch out to this. Do I know enough to get started? And there is a good chance, the high likelihood is like the answer is yes, because people say, oh, I come from like a non-tech background and I'm going into technology. It's 2021. There's a high chance that you have not been working with paper and pencil this entire time.
Yeah.
There's a high chance. I can't jump out there and say that, but you have been interfacing and interacting with something of some sort. Now, thanks to us, again, being in 2020, developing a tech stack that you're familiar with is not all that hard. There's lots of free software and solutions that you can start to work with, start to manipulate with, start to produce projects, either for yourself or for other people, or volunteer to do stuff. If somebody wants to, if you want to you can start to build your own portfolio based on, these, I'm trying to think of the word, case studies. You can start to build case studies on projects that you have made up. Again, if you need to, if you don't feel comfortable, if that's not enough, if you made it up for yourself, and you're like, well, I just made this up for myself, volunteer. There's so many organizations that would love to be able to have, a couple of extra pair of hands to do something, and, in exchange for, whether it's a testimonial or, being able to use them as a use case, or even if they're not willing to that, just say, don't use their name. Just talk about an instance where, person A was challenged with blah, blah, blah. You came in and this was their end result. And so those are just a few suggestions, but imposter syndrome is definitely real. Another thing that I would invite people to do who are considering, pivoting, and they're kind of challenged with, they feel a certain way about how much they know, is something that I did when I started actually my business, right? So I did not go to school for marketing or business. I did not go to school for that. And I wanted to start to earn extra money doing marketing. So there was a lot of